my book Necessary. This chapter is chapter 19 and it's called You Are a Lion. And it's a conversation I had with my daughter. I want you to listen to this. I'll never forget many years ago when my daughter, who is now an adult, was in middle school and I found her crying in her room because some girls at her school didn't want to talk to her anymore. She sobbed about not having done nothing wrong and she didn't understand why all of a sudden they turned against her. She was so heartbroken she could barely speak as she cried while saying, and I quote, "I don't understand why they won't talk to me. I didn't do anything to them." She went on and on about how they gave her the silent treatment. She was truly crushed. You could see even from her body language that she was very dependent on those relationships and she placed her happiness in their hands. I had never seen her become so distraught and cry so hard. I'm sure most mothers would have sympathized, held their daughters, and told them that everything was going to be okay. But in that moment, something inside of me sparked. It was a righteous anger because it took everything in me to sit still as I watched this beautiful, kind-hearted, loving young girl allow her self-confidence to be shattered by the thoughts and opinions of others. So without any pre-planned speech, I began to give her wisdom that poured out from the depth of my soul. To this day, that was a moment she told me she would never forget because it completely changed her life. I closed the door and got about 2 inches away from her face. I looked her straight in the eyes and I said, "You are a lion. You are a lion because my blood flows through your veins. And the blood, the Spirit of Jesus Christ, flows through me. I am a lion, and the power that is within me has been passed on to you. That power is the strength of God. Don't ever beg someone to love you or accept you. Lions sometimes have to walk alone. Lions lead the way. Lions are courageous. Lions are powerful. And you are powerful because of the God that we serve. You are boldly and fiercely made. Things that would devour most people do not devour us because he that is within us is greater than he that is in the world. When people know that their rejection can crush you, they will continue to use that power over you. Don't ever give your power away. So I want you to go to school and walk with your head held high because you know who you are. Don't run after people. Run after knowing who you are. A beautiful, powerful lion in God. Don't ever be afraid to walk alone, sit alone, or make new friends. Others will become attracted to the light they see in you. I am a lion and you are my child. My blood flows through you. Don't you ever forget who you are. You are a lion. As I spoke those words to my tender young daughter, her eyes widened. Her facial expression completely changed, and she was empowered because for the first time in her life, she knew who she was. She walked in her school the next day with her head held high. She later told me that she sat by herself in the cafeteria the next day with no fears of being alone and with a newfound confidence that she never had. She made new friends and never again allowed anyone to define her self-worth or demean her value. Now, some of you might be thinking that was a bit too much to tell a young girl who was simply crying about lost friendships because that's a normal part of life and it happens all the time in school. But I would like to tell you this. From that day forward, my daughter never had that issue again because she knew who she was. A lion. For the first time in her life, she understood the power in knowing what she was made of and where she comes from. And while this story is probably a typical scenario that occurs in our children's lives, I think it is critical that they start to learn as young as possible that they are enough and no one gets to determine their value and rule over them in such a way that they beg for acceptance from others. For me, that issue was larger than simply a lost friendship. It was an identity issue. She needed to know who she was and the power that lived inside of her. That was very important for her to learn so that she would not take those same insecurities into her adult life by letting others determine her value. My daughter is an adult now, and to this day, she still remembers that precious moment when she realized the power that was already living inside of her. It was always there. She just didn't know it. Sometimes we have to be reminded of who we really are in the presence of God when we face our difficult times in life. In fact, over the years, there have been a few precious moments when she would call me or text me and saying, and I quote, "Mom, I need to hear that line story again." So I would text her back, My daughter, you are a lion. You are a lion because, and I would finish the sentence. She would reply, thanks, Mom. I decided to share this private story with the world because it made such a huge impact in my daughter's life. And to my surprise, it tremendously impacted the lives of people in several nations after I shared this story on one of my podcast episodes titled, You Are a Lion. I did not expect so many people would find their story in the story of a child who was distraught over some friends talking about her and refusing to sit with her. But isn't it funny how God works in our lives? Sometimes we can find our answers in life by simply learning from children. A common response I received from many of my podcast and social media subscribers was, I wish I had someone in my life who told me those words when I was younger. It broke my heart to hear those words because even though I had a very challenging childhood growing up in poverty, my mama always told me that I was a lion. I remember when her health was rapidly declining and she could no longer speak. But she mouthed the words to me, you are a lion. You are strong, baby. You are strong. I broke down in tears because I didn't want her to leave me, nor did I believe I was strong enough to deal with all the pressures I was feeling at that time. I was shaking so hard. I placed my forehead on her forehead and I said, Mama, please don't leave me. I'm not that strong. I'm not that strong, Mama. I thought she would cry with me, but she didn't. She moved me about 2 or so inches from her face, looked me in the eyes with a determined, resolute, strong expression, without any fears or doubts about the words she was about to say to me. And she mouthed, and I quote, this is an exact quote from my mom, you are a lion. You are strong, baby. You're strong, and you're gonna make it. She passed away a few hours later. It took me some time to realize that the strength she was talking about was not only my strength in character and perseverance, but my strength in God. She would always tell me to be strong in the Lord. In that moment, when I was feeling powerless and weak, I discovered a new level of strength I didn't even know I had. I had been given the strength to stand and continue on because my mama reminded me who I was. A lion in Christ. If you've never been told these words, I want you to hear them now. I want you to hear them and believe the very words my mama passed down to me. I passed down to my daughter. And now I'm passing on to you. You are a lion. You are strong. You are strong, baby. You're strong. And even when you don't believe you have the strength to go on or the power to overcome whatever challenges are coming your way, even though no one may have told you this when you were younger, know that I'm telling you this now. You are a lion. You are strong, and you will make it. Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Please don't ever beg anyone to love you. Please don't ever beg anyone to accept you. If someone has decided to walk out of your life, I pray that God gives you the strength to walk in love and in humility as you open the door very wide and wish them well. If the season has come for some people to leave your life, you must know that sometimes you have to be okay with standing alone, just you and God. I'm a living witness that sometimes our greatest growth comes from the lowest valleys when we had to stand alone. Those were the times when God showed me that I was enough. And despite what others said about me, he saw the best in me. You are a lion. You have something special to offer the world. And I sincerely pray that after reading or listening to this chapter, you walk with your head held just a little bit higher. As you begin to elevate your thinking and place greater value on yourself. You are a child of God, a fierce lion, and you can do anything through Christ who strengthens you. This isn't arrogance talking, it's a knowing of who you are and whose you are, an heir of the King. That's Romans 8:17. I sincerely pray you never forget this. I love you all. If you don't have a copy of Necessary, I encourage you to get your hands on a copy of it right away. Reread that chapter called You Are a Lion. I love you all. This is Zenja Glass. I'm looking forward to your comments.